Hello everyone, welcome again to another episode of Meeting Recap Roundtable. My name is Tom Lord, and with me tonight I have the water girl Brandy James, the fabulous Chris Lattice Drake, and the man who needs no introduction, Chris Robertson, and a special guest tonight, the Wolverine of the school board, Julius Melendez. How you doing, Julius?
Doing great.
Welcome to Meeting Recap Roundtable. And Julius tonight is going to give us a little bit of an update on the school board and the happenings on the school board. So what can you tell us about what's going on the school board, Julius?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you. This is my actual inaugural episode. I actually watch it all the time. It's like a first-time listener, first-time caller to you on the radio.
Long-time listener, first-time
long-time listener, first-time,
Yeah.
This is my first time here, but, I'm not new to St. Cloud. I actually have a business. People don't know. I own a building out there in 1203 Florida Avenue, across from Place for Grace. So I've been in St. Cloud for a while, and actually I live in Parton Settlement, but yet I do all my shopping here. So technically I have a Kissimmee address, but I go shopping here, do everything else on this side of the canal, so to speak. But the school district is interesting. We just finished our State of Education. We finished the SRO Task Force. As you know, you were a part of that SRO Task Force. It is unfortunate, we do have an agreement for another year that there's going to be an SRO in every single school. But the sad part is I wanted a 3-year commitment. I wanted the law enforcement agencies to be obligated or committed to protecting our children's safety no matter what. And I even told them, I can understand a 3-year agreement may require, you don't know what the funding is going to look like, but we could have given them like 3% escalators or, hey, a little cost of living adjustment, but they didn't agree. And they said they only wanted 1-year agreement because the rumor is, and it's not even a rumor, we asked them during one of the budget meetings that, do you have any intention of pulling anybody else out? So not only is it charter schools, but the following year they want to be able to go after the elementary schools. And so they want every elementary school to get pulled out. The next thing you know, who knows what it is after that. Right. So it's frustrating because you want to negotiate in good faith, and that is the most difficult part that I've had because Chief Odell first of all, Sheriff Lopez never even came to any of the meetings.
Wow.
Which was frustrating.
Yeah.
And it took him like 2 or 3 meetings in to even send a representative.
Right.
And then he'd send his representative, wasn't even the undersheriff. You would think that, hey, your number 2 is your person that represents you. Like, when the chairman of the school board can't be there, it's the vice chair that's there.
Sure. Yeah.
So he sends, Major Weiss, so it's, and Major Weiss is a good guy. I mean, he's got to do his thing, he's representing the best that he can. But I think it's unfortunate that the sheriff was pushing the charter schools to use a guardian no matter what. Wow. And here's the thing, you say, well, how do you know it's no matter what? I spoke to one of the charter schools because even though they're not our authority, they're still friends.
Sure.
And there's a couple of them. There's New Dimensions High School and I think Four Corners Charter School, because Four Corners is way out there. Yeah. So if they have an incident, it's hard for a police officer to respond appropriately.
Wow.
So New Dimensions, do you know what they pay about $70,000 a year for the SRO? But we pay only about $43,000 because the county helps subsidize it.
Sure.
But the county's not going to want to subsidize the charters. So New Dimension says, well, we'd at least like to have you for another year.
Yeah.
You know what price the sheriff had actually quoted the school? From $70,000. What do you think? Just take one guess.
120. 120. That was exactly my guess.
Yes, over $100 and something thousand dollars is what he bid on it on purpose.
Wow.
So nobody can afford that.
Sure.
It's like that's almost twice as much. So he knew what he was doing and and then he had like a seminar that the charter schools went to, and he had a local guardian vendor, like a company there already prepared, give them their spiel. So I don't know what the connection is between with that. Maybe somebody would like to know, but
now schools start within a week or so now, 2 weeks.
Yes.
School starts, and how many guardians are trained up?
Well, right now each charter school has their own contracts, so there's not a lot of. There's a guardian training actually happening right now. And so it's going to be like, I think it's like a 4 or 5 week course. It's like every other day. And the unfortunate thing is it's state mandated, the training, but out of like 133 hours, like 70 or 80 of it is just shooting a gun.
Wow.
So, and as you know, inside the school, we don't have that many active shooter incidents.
Right,
I mean, that's something to prepare for.
Right.
What I
but
saw
the
in your
officer
last
does more than
meeting
that.
was that you had 2 trained.
Yes.
Are there more than 2 trained at this point?
Well, at the school district, we wanted. Well, it's not a secret that we don't really trust the new program that's being in existence.
Mm-hmm.
So we sent 2 district administrators to go there to see what the program is. And that's where I was leading before, because I have a feeling that 80% of it is gun training, but nothing dealing with students.
No
I just
de-escalation?
want them.
And that was the whole purpose
Yes.
of it to begin with, was
Right.
to be able to
De-escalate.
be more personable with
Yeah.
the students and make them feel more secure. And not be worried, because there's a stigma sometimes on law enforcement, especially with children. It's just
I mean, me personally, I come from a long line of police officers, and we bleed blue in our family. My personal experience with SROs, having grown up in some, portionally in West Philadelphia, I grew up, and it's a largely black community, and unfortunately, there was not a lot of positive police presence there, where a lot of times children were seeing, their parents taken out of the home, and it wasn't necessarily a positive reflection between the police and the community. And so for me, having an SRO at that young level of education in the elementary schools, it gave that first introduction to be a positive one.
humanize them.
Yeah, humanize them. And literally for me, I feel like it was, you put them in the classroom, you teach them, you get them interacting, and they want to be a part of it. They develop a relationship with that person, and they don't see that badge as something necessarily negative.
Well,
Exactly.
we literally had law class
Oh, we
when,
did.
when I was in
Yeah.
elementary school.
Right.
Yeah, we did too.
Oh, I mean, I don't know what happened with that, but I loved every single one of the SROs that I
Yes,
went to
me
school
too.
with.
Well,
Like,
and
Me too.
I think they're taught to respect law enforcement from an early age.
Exactly.
And so, years on down the road, they've got that foundation
Yeah.
already where, like you said, they don't look at the badge as something that's negative. And,
Right.
Soon, and most people in their lifetime has been pulled over by an officer of some sort. And you're always taught, you should always show respect, especially if you're in the wrong, at all
Absolutely.
yeah.
times. But that kind of teaches them at an early age, respect, and that's,
Yeah, and you talk about building informants later on, because there's kids today, they're going to be on the street tomorrow.
Absolutely.
And an incident happens. Again, that's so short-sighted of them to pull them out so early.
Yeah.
Because now they know, they feel comfortable. If the officer says, hey, come over to the side, find out what's going on. But and here's one quick story I can share on that too, because when I did the task force, I wanted to see them in action.
Yeah.
Because everyone can tell you what's on paper.
Sure.
And I tell you, I'm not exaggerating the story at all. I went to a school in Poinciana, right? And I forget which one it is because I visited so many. But I remember going there. There's like a door separating the entrance to like the back end of the administration, right? And so they buzzed me in because I was a school board member. I don't try to play that card. I try to check in just like everybody else.
Sure.
I want to see the process.
Sure.
I open the door and there's a nurse's station right there, and there's a female SRO. She was a little bit younger, and she had 2 kids. And it was an elementary school. There was a little black boy, and there was somebody else there, right? They're in detention, right? Because they were like misbehaving. So they sent them to the nurse's station just to kind of like as a timeout. And the deputy was right there. When I first walked in, she had like note cards. What's the capital of Montana?
That's
What's
awesome.
the capital of Washington?
Right.
Wow.
Make it productive.
Exactly.
Yes.
So converting a negative into a positive.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So these kids were in trouble, but not expulsion type. They were just like in
Right.
detention for
Right.
probably like talking too much or
Right.
doing something silly. But instead of just sitting in a corner doing nothing, that deputy was
Engaging
there,
them.
engaging with them
Yeah.
with that positive interaction, letting them know that there's an alternative out there, and those kids were responding to it.
Well, go ahead.
No, I was saying, to me, that's more important than pension pennies. I'm
Sure.
trying to save a dime.
Absolutely.
That's,
You're setting your groundwork. Listen, these children come out and they're our neighbors, they're our coworkers, it's our community. And like I said from the word go, when I moved to Florida, I came here in middle school. We had shout out to Deputy Pickle because he was a fantastic SRO. He got the kids engaged and everybody liked him, and he was funny and he was human, and and he would come in and he'd yoke you up. And the thing is, it got to the point where you didn't want to disappoint Deputy Pickle. It was it. You didn't, you were like, oh man, Mike's gonna be so mad at me, but he was human and he was so great. And I happened to run into Deputy Pickle years back at our Walmart here when we were still in high school. And in high school, Tom and I graduated in St. Cloud in '94. Shout out to Deputy Harrell, and who was beyond fantastic. And another one, human.
Reinhardt.
Yeah.
Reinhardt was mine.
Yeah. I mean, fantastic. They were just,
Or
they
middle
were human.
school, Officer Parrott.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we remember,
Middle.
and they
Yeah.
stick with you and you remember them.
Yep.
And they make that impact and that difference. And I think getting them early is huge. I think getting them to de-escalate a situation versus, getting somebody who's not going to have the ability to explain to them, look, things are different when you're in elementary school versus high school. By the time you start kindergarten, you're 5. By the time you graduate, most people are 18. You're an adult. What happens when you're a minor is not the same consequences as when you're an
Right.
adult. And that's huge.
Well, and a lot of times, not only were they the SRO, but they also taught law class.
Yes.
Yeah, that's us.
Yes,
Right.
that's
And
us.
I don't
yeah.
think
I
you're gonna
love
get
law
that.
class.
out of-
Me too. I
Yeah,
loved
gang
it.
violence, drug
Yeah.
abuse,
Yeah.
domestic
You're not
violence.
gonna get that out of the Guardian program.
Never.
Right?
No.
That's
Well, I don't
Not
even
at
know
all.
if there's. I don't even think law class is a thing anymore. Is it?
No, we actually, that was part of the SRO recommendations.
Right.
We were actually starting making them teach classes.
Right.
Yeah,
We had
that's
it.
how it
I
started.
loved it. It was
Me
one
too.
of my
They
favorite
just stopped
classes.
Me
teaching
too.
classes.
It broke up the monotony of the day too
Sure.
for kids because it was more fun and it didn't seem so structured, you know.
Right.
Um,
And
I
it's
just-
real life skills.
Yeah.
It's practical skills. You're learning what makes things go.
I'll
Yeah.
tell you, teaching law at middle school, that may spark some kid saying, "Hey, I want to be an officer. I want to be an attorney, or I, want
Yeah.
to be a judge in the
Yeah.
future."
Right.
And that's
Yeah.
You know, a lot of us that were on that task force, that was the point of the task force to us. And there was people on the task force that didn't believe in SROs at all.
Wow.
But once we were on the task force and we learned and we went to, the training facility and everybody kind of came together and was all on the same page.
That's great.
Because they saw what training was involved, what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't think we saw, we saw what we wanted at the end.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of the things that we did want got in there.
That's
But
good.
that was one of the things we wanted was for the SRO to actually teach a class,
Yeah.
not just walk around waiting for something to happen.
Sure.
And what you get with a guardian is you get somebody that's just walking around
Correct.
waiting for something to happen.
It's not human. It's not humanizing. And I think that's the portion I guess I forgot to include initially that humanizes them. When they're in the classroom and they're engaging with you and they're joking and they know you and they're walking down the hallway. I mean, I remember Deputy Pickle. I'm thinking to myself, man, how does this guy remember everybody's name in school?
Yeah.
And then he goes to the police force and he's driving down the road and he's, he knows this guy, he knows that guy. Same thing with Officer Harrell, And it just, I don't know. My youngest brother is a Orange County deputy. My grandfather was a police officer. And my stepfather was a police officer. So for me, it's huge. I don't know. I respect that.
And I can tell you, our mutual friend Patty
Mhm.
O'Brien,
Mhm.
kindergarten teacher at Lakeview since the day they opened,
Yes.
35 years ago.
Yeah.
She does nothing but sing praise about their SRO.
Oh, yeah.
Deputy George. I
Yeah.
believe his name is.
Yeah, she
just
does.
on and on and on, and just think so highly of them. So
Yeah.
I think it
and
makes it.
in worst case scenarios, a compromise if there is budget issues, like the high schools have 2 SROs, maybe there's an SRO and a guardian,
Right.
but now it's under the supervision. It's kind of like a doctor or a physician assistant.
Right.
A physician assistant works
Right.
underneath the license of a doctor. Maybe
Practitioner,
something like
right.
that, we can kind of work together.
Right,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? So, but I don't want to substitute one for the other.
Right.
They can augment and kind of work together, or maybe a guardian can be a floater. Let's say the SRO has to go on vacation for a week or two,
Right.
then the guardian can kind of take place. So I'm not against the idea, but
Sure.
what frustrated me more than anything, because that's what I love about St. Cloud, the process matters.
Absolutely.
We had about 5 meetings
Right.
over how many weeks? The guardian comes up at the last second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even one of the task force committee members asked the sheriff, no, Weiss, because he's not the sheriff, he wasn't there, asked him, do you plan on having a guardian program? And they flat out lied to us.
Wow.
I'm like, treat us like a professional. I mean, be honest and say, hey, we're considering it.
Yeah.
Maybe we could have had the time to study a little bit more. I just didn't like that the way that it was brought out too, and like it was at the last minute.
But it just seemed like they had their mind made up from the beginning, and
Correct.
it wasted everybody's time really because at the end of the day, they already knew what they were gonna do.
Like smoke and mirrors.
Yeah,
And if you
that's
can't be transparency, if you can't have transparency at the level of the sheriff's office, that's quite concerning because that should be the most transparent of them all and the most honest.
Yeah. And
That's disheartening.
And as Tom knows, we're on the Transparency and Good Governance Task Force. There's a reason. There's a purpose for it.
Yeah, there's a
And
reason
it's
why
kinda-
that board came about. So
Wow. Well, thank you, Julius.
yeah,
That's
thank
quite a
you,
bit.
Julia.
You know.